Media studies, and by extent communication in general, is a beautiful field that covers an incredibly wide range of topics, from experimental research focusing on audience psychology to critical analyses of the deterministic nature of media and our culture as a whole. It has been one of the most fascinating things I've ever been able to study in my entire life. Studying this throughout my undergraduate career has been personally enriching in ways that are difficult to put into accurate words. This is a field that I care very deeply about, and I see something wrong with it. Advertising and marketing, both branches to media research in the tree of communication, often celebrate advancements in audience tracking technology, recommendation algorithms, and tailored persuasion methods. And this makes sense. The field exists in order to most effectively connect with audiences to promote goods and services. It is in the desires of this wider discipline that I see an issue with how media studies should be acting as a check and balance towards these efforts of reaching audiences. And this isn't some small issue about methodological approaches or what names should be used for different kinds of information. But rather a struggle over the very heart and direction of media studies as a whole. The problem at hand lies in what should be done, if anything possible, about how ubiquitous advertising and recommendation algorithms have become in our culture. Or put simply, how can we best prepare people for participating in the current mode of online communication? This much is certain. The apparatuses of online media, recommendation algorithms, audience tracking solutions, and the drive to generate revenue for advertisers are unlikely to be going anywhere anytime soon, as they have become essential elements to this mode of communication. So, again, I ask the same question. What is the best way to prepare audiences for engaging with online media, and what does it mean to have media literacy? In order to solve this, I will answer my own question with another question. How much are users able to not participate in this mode of communication? The Facebook Dilemma is a PBS Frontline documentary released in 2018 that investigates the malicious design of social media platforms, focusing on Facebook and TikTok. This helps us answer this second question through its history of the construction of social media algorithms.
I remember someone said to me, "Mark, we already have nearly every college student in the US on Facebook. It's incredible that we were even able to do that, but no one gets a second trick like that." Well, let's take a look at how he did.
What was the growth team about? What did you do at Growth?
The story of Growth has really been about making Facebook available to people that wanted it but couldn't have access to it.
Naomi Gleit, Facebook's second longest serving employee, is one of 5 officials the company put forward to talk to Frontline. She was an original member of the Growth team.
One of my first projects was expanding Facebook to high school students. I worked on translating Facebook into over 100 languages. When I joined, there were 1 million users, and now there's over 2 billion people using Facebook every month.
Some of the problems that have reared their head with Facebook over the past couple of years seem to have been caused in some ways by this exponential growth.
So I think Mark has said this, that we have been slow to really understand the ways in which Facebook might be used for bad things. We've been really focused on the good things.
So who are all these new users?
The growth team had tons of engineers figuring out how you could make the new user experience more engaging, how you could figure out how to get more people to sign up. Everyone was focused on growth, growth, growth.
Give people the power to share.
And the key to keeping all these new people engaged
More open and connected.
was Facebook's most important feature,
Newsfeed.
Newsfeed, the seemingly endless stream of stories, pictures, and updates shared by friends, advertisers, and others.
There is no capability of interacting with social media platforms while remaining unaffected by recommendation algorithms. So then, given that any level of participation exposes users to these different forms of manipulation present in social media, how do the algorithms and the overall design of these platforms work to place users into demographics in order to keep them engaged and generating revenue? Theodore Adorno describes this process in The Culture Industry, Enlightenment as Mass Deception, how entertainment is provided to all audiences in order to present them with an abstraction of their fulfilled desires on the screen. 3 quotes summarize his prescience of the current mode of communication. 1. Something is provided for all demographics so that none may escape. 2. Even during their leisure time, consumers must orient themselves according to the unity of production. And 3. The most intimate reactions of human beings have become so entirely reified, even to themselves, that the idea of anything peculiar to them survives only an extreme abstraction. Personality means hardly anything more than dazzling white teeth and freedom from body odor and emotions. That is the triumph of advertising in the culture industry. The compulsive imitation by consumers of cultural commodities, which, at the same time, they recognize as false. Another work of media studies that has been massively influential to me is Sut Jolly's 1997 masterpiece documentary, Advertising in the End of the World.
Advertising has taken up more and more space in the culture. It has literally colonized the culture. Commercial culture is now inside our intimate relationships. It is inside our homes, inside our heads, inside our identities. I think that if anyone wants to understand our culture and our society, they'd better come to terms with the role and power of commercial images. The present-oriented nature of advertising will increase because of the current situation. First, you have an audience that is cynical about advertising, that tries all it can to avoid it. That's why advertising spreads everywhere, so people cannot avoid it. And as it does that, advertisers are faced with the problem of clutter and noise. In that situation, advertising will be even more connected to the present. It will speak to us more through our bodies than through our heads. It will try and bypass thinking and go straight for the gut, straight for our emotions. That's how you cut through the clutter, to communicate to a cynical and reluctant audience. You smack them, metaphorically, in the mouth. In this move from the cognitive to the emotional, it's not just pleasant emotions like sexuality that will be targeted. Any emotion, however unpleasant, that cuts through the clutter will be used. If at one level advertising reflects our dream life, it will also draw upon our nightmares as well.
Face it, guys. You stink.
There was a recent ad for merry-go-round clothes that focused on the nightmare and embarrassment that people have of being in public spaces naked. This is not about pleasure, but about panic. But panic cuts through the clutter. Unfortunately, in this move, advertising will not stress the value of a collective long-range future. The prevailing values of the commercial system provide no incentive to develop bonds with future generations. We don't care about the future. To the extent that it does all these things, then advertising becomes one of the major obstacles to our survival as a species. We have to insist on alternative values that will provide a humane collective solution to the global crisis. We have to ensure for our children and future generations a world truly fit for human habitation.
This builds on Adorno's illustration of the media landscape in the culture industry with the assertion that our culture has been colonized by advertising, meaning that advertising has reached such a degree of ubiquity within our society that it is impossible to avoid exposure to it and its byproducts. In other words, consumerism has become socially ingrained on a level that it itself is the way that we communicate. In the 30 years since this documentary has released, I would go further than Jolly to say that advertising has grown to a point in our culture where it has nearly entirely consumed our communication, especially online. Given the conditions of this mode of online communication, it therefore seems clear that the best course of interaction to prepare users would be to encourage active participation rather than passive consumerism. In a world where most of our public spaces have been privatized and commercialized, both in real life and online, it is more important now than ever not only to encourage creativity but also inspire others to find communities to participate in, as these are some of the few remaining ways to avoid alienation and find fulfillment online today. The way that I've been able to do this myself is through participating in gaming communities that have gone from online spaces to real-life relationships. Notably, the competitive scene for Super Smash Bros. Melee. This community is unique in its level of dedication and its grassroots nature, persevering in the face of financial and even legal issues.
Just remember one thing. You can try and take our Melee away. You can take my controller, my GameCube, my CRT. I'll tell you something, I'll play Melee in my fucking mind. As long as Melee lives, I will play, and if you take it all, we'll fucking play in a garage. 20 people there, hot, sweaty, gross, me versus Zane behind a 7-Eleven for 25 bucks. And that's what it's always going to be. You don't understand that the money, the fame, nobody gives. Anybody who wants to be a top player gives no fucks about that. So if you try to shut us down, you'll never shut us down. You think you might, but I promise you with all my soul, you got nothing on the Melee community. These fucks are the cockroaches of esports. You try and kill them, you can't kill them. These motherfuckers just keep going, dude. So you can try. You're not going to succeed, whoever you are. Just remember that.
For this project, I decided to interview one of my best friends, known online as Palmolive, to get his insight into the topic. So tell me a little bit about your relationship with social media when you were a sophomore in college.
Sophomore year, I kind of just let myself go, because I had spent a whole year being around these people, so I got to know them, and through knowing people, you know people's flaws more, and you realize because I was less willing to hang out with them, I just spent more time scrolling, and I spent more time on Instagram, on TikTok, especially TikTok. It very much distracts a lot of people from, it definitely distracted me of my real life issues, not just with my relationships with people, but also just how I felt about myself.
But I think social media can help you find communities.
Or it's if you have a hobby, you can find your community about something. If there's a knitting community in your town, you can find a knitting community where people go somewhere and make stuff together. Or if there's I don't know what else or a board game thing, or
yeah. So tell me about the communities that you found like that.
Something that I've made a part of my life, and that definitely helped me find a lot of people I connect with 10 times more than most other people, is the gaming community, the fighting game community, but also more specifically the Super Smash Bros community, the game. It's something I've been It's it's a Nintendo game that you play with your friends, and it's on every Nintendo console, and I've been playing it since I was a kid. And I've always been curious about the competitive scene from an outsider point of view, but one day a couple years ago, I just decided, I was you know what, I'm going to actually go find people to play this game with instead of just my family or the people or someone next door. It's no, I want to meet a whole community of people.
And kind of for us, throughout our lives, a big source of fixing that
video
point
games
video games, and playing, especially playing them with
video
other
games
people.
have been a constant in my life for as long as I can remember, and also just having friends who also play video games is so important to me, and to be able to find more people in a community that are more like you because they're also gamers, it's just beautiful, because it's just finding a game you want to play with other people. It's something you don't think of. It's when was the last time, I guess I want to put on to you, but generally, if anyone else if anyone else would be listening to this, what was a time that you wanted to play a game with someone, whether it was chess or checkers or Catan, or if it was just I don't know, rock paper scissors, what a time where you were so bored, you're I want to play the game with someone and compete with someone right now, just to make a moment of.
Well, I think it's Smash Brothers kind of has a unique life as a competitive scene, because the community is so dedicated to it, and And like, despite a lot of efforts by Nintendo to kind of shut things down or make it as difficult as possible, they continue. And tell me a little bit like about that and like kind of how important social media actually is to the community.
I mean, Twitter was maybe a thing but it's like the old Melee players, they use Smash boards. Like, yeah, and I think it's just crazy. It's just like a forum website made by fans of the game where everyone can talk about their specific game. It's like something
This solution is not only built on the previously mentioned authors, but also evokes Walter Benjamin in his seminal essay, The Work of Art in the Age of Mechanical Reproduction. The bloated revenue system of the internet will reach, and is even arguably at the point already, of consuming itself and collapsing under its own weight. Just look towards the issues with AI and copyright, for example. It must come to a head at some point where either the technology is restricted or copyright law must change. And when we look in the past for similar instances of situations like this, often the technology has inspired changes in legislation. What I am not saying here is that we should all get off the internet and go outside, but rather that being mindful and aware of how we as users are turned into a source of revenue is essential in order to avoid doom scrolling our lives away and instead be able to find some sort of fulfillment online. The computer is for so much more than just watching YouTube. We are able to create beautiful things, connect with others, and make lasting impacts on our lives in the real world as well as the digital. So long as we are able to actually practice media literacy and not just be able to tell whether or not a news article is clickbait.
Should take off the hoodie.
Take off the hoodie.
Go ahead.
You want to? All right. Of course not. That is a warm hoodie.
Yeah, no, it's a thick hoodie. It's a company hoodie. We print our mission on the inside.
What? Oh my
really?
God, the inside of the hoodie, everybody. Take a moment. What is it? Making the
Making the world more open and connected.
Oh my God, it's like a secret
Cool.
cult.